got back into swing of things after spring break. Yeah, some positive and some stuff not so good. Some guys probably still had their minds on the beach or wherever they were at, but got some good work done. Got still a lot of evaluations to be had here in the next week and a half. And when we finish April 5th, then we have a week of meetings with our players. But we got to give them an opportunity to show us what they can do, and while we're still teaching some of our stuff.
Rich, I think you'd said before that you were going to spend your spring break week doing a lot of evaluations, sort of trying to figure stuff out with your coaching staff. Anything earth-shattering?
I did more evaluation of our recruit list. I had 110 and something like that, 110 guys that I hadn't evaluated their tape. 26 guys, and so I got all that done. And then a little bit of evaluation of our current players. And then we kind of structure and practice each of our last few practices to have a little bit more competitive situations to kind of see what some of the guys could do. And I explained to them, I said, it's not going to be fun to have to reduce the roster down because of the squad size. I still think the NCAA should allow us the grandfather clause or whatever players that shouldn't have to cut guys that you don't want to cut to make the 105. I think if they're already here, they should be able to stay here and have a bigger roster size. But the NCAA's sometimes some of the decisions they make I question, but still either way we're going to have to do some of that, and that's not going to be a lot of fun.
In that cut down stuff, do you have numbers in mind for 15 offensive linemen? Is that how you're going to do it?
Yeah, and everybody does. You have your, if you're going to have 85 on scholarship and 20 more, and how many, 16, 17, 18 offensive linemen, how many quarterbacks, how many running backs, and I know 105 seems like a lot, but it's when you go practicing and whatever, you still may need to have a few guys that maybe can go both ways. I think you'll see a little bit more than that. I know that Travis Hunter did it at Colorado, and he's a freak athlete. But there are guys that probably on our team now, or guys that we will recruit that could play maybe defensive end and tight end, or linebacker and tight end, or maybe play wide out and safety or something. So that's part of our evaluation in the class of 26 guys for sure.
Back after a week off, is evaluation of retention part of a little bit of what you're looking at?
Yeah, a little bit. I would, we give them written tests, and things to study over break. That probably only takes less than an hour, and I would like to think all of them were probably taking an hour every day studying, but that's probably not the case, and that's fine. They probably, a lot of them need, have a little break from that. Sometimes it's not all bad, I don't know if they were dancing or anything, but they came back. We were ready to work today. I didn't think our practice was as crisp as I would have liked on both sides of the ball at times, and we are still woefully out of shape like every other team in America is right now. But our strength staff and our guys will get in shape over the summer.
To kind of piggyback off of that question a little bit, when you're factoring in, because we're in the era that we're in, when you're factoring in what you're going to bring in, the numbers for the roster, even recruiting, how much of your mind is about keeping the players on the team that are currently on the team that you want to keep to avoid losing them? Because the spring portal will open up.
Sure, I think that's every coach's. I think most of us are in favor. That's what's proposed, is have a single portal period instead of these two. Because at least you have an idea what your roster has and who you have. Now it's just, we can complain all we want. It's kind of a cluster, but hope we don't lose too many. That the guys that you want to have, I think every team is probably going to lose some. I hope we don't lose any. I don't know anybody they don't act like, are acting like, hey, I'm half in, half out, which to our guys' credit, they've been all really engaged in we're going to be like everybody else in July when the rev share thing happens. We're going to be right in the middle of that too. So the guys that play and earn success and do well are going to be in a pretty good spot, probably better spot than they've ever been. But that's the case across the country.
Have you seen that ramp up the level of competitiveness in the spring so far because of the stakes?
Yeah, you would think so, right? It's like, that's like people talking about coaching guys. I mean, now you can kind of coach them harder, can't you? Because they're getting paid. It's like, they can earn success and earn success not only with playing time, but also financially. But I'd hope they'd want it. If money's your sole factor for doing that, you're probably not going to be as good as you can be. I hope it's because you just want to be the best at what you're doing, not because you think that's going to help you get a bigger payday. You know what I mean? So that's the thing that you want to try to see as, do you love football and you're playing it because you love football, or you just playing it for the money? I don't think we have guys that are playing it for just the money. I would not think that. We got tremendous fan base, a great atmosphere. You guys give them great coverage. They got, they're able to they get their all their stuff highlighted in the media and all that stuff. So they've got great opportunities besides getting paid. So I'm trying to appeal to our guys' competitiveness as a player more than as an object that's getting paid money, if that makes sense.
Well, not on that side you have the carrot. On the other side you have the stick. You only have 105 spots. If I'm on your team, I don't want to be 106. Does that help with the competitiveness?
That's why I mentioned it to him the other day. I think I got it. We call these meeting rooms the truth rooms, and we tell the truth in here, and not all the stuff that we talk in here, we talk outside. But I do want our guys to understand it's going to be hard decisions to make, and some of them are going to be right there on the edge. It's like it's going to be tough. There's a lot of guys we're not sure that, are they going to be in a 105, not in a 105. And you can't replace them if somebody gets hurt during the season. You're going to be less than that. That's the big difference. It's like people say it's like the NFL, and they got a 53-man roster. But if somebody gets hurt, they just bring a guy off the practice squad or give him off the street, and we can't do that. So it's a little bit different dynamic, and that's why you have to really be intentional about how you fill your roster. And every coach is going to want more guys in their room, which I don't blame them. But we have a plan for that.
You've discussed this 105 a lot. And how hard it's going to be to make the cut. I'm number 106. What do you say to me?
I said, boy, I hope you stay in school here at West Virginia, and if you're in school here and somebody gets hurt during camp, you're the first one in. But who's going to do that? They're all going to want to go somewhere and play. So that's why I mentioned it, Bob. Sunday night when they came back, is that maybe 2 weeks. It's not just the 2 weeks that we're evaluating them with, but just kind of get them, hey, you got 5 or 6 practices where you got to put your best foot forward. That doesn't mean you're not going to make a mistake or whatever, but we need to see your best version of it. So if you're on that cusp of in or out, you do something to differentiate yourself from that other guy.
Can you cut a scholarship guy?
Yeah.
What I was just telling him.
He hopes he can go somewhere else and get one. It's in it. It's just like, it's. It's even there are guys that are maybe can't do their full self because they're a little bit injured or something, and like, how do you evaluate them? Do you know what I mean? In the NFL, you can't cut a guy when he's on the IR, right? Once he gets off the injured reserve, a lot of them get whacked right away. You know what I mean? So we are definitely trending toward a pro model. Hello, right? But we don't have all the structures that the pro model NFL has. And in my opinion, that's what we need to have. If that's where we're going to or have gone to, let's copy them as much as we can. And let's not pretend that, hey, they're just college student athletes. They're college/professional student athletes. So it's a different dynamic.
How long before a scholarship player has to negotiate a buyout into his scholarship?
Right, and where is this is all trending is everybody's got to be under contract, right? I don't know how you have pay guys and not have them have a contract, right? I mean, people say, well, you can't be employees, you know. Well, they're all going to be under some kind of contract, NIL contracts and stuff like that. So it's the same thing. That's why it's kind of doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I mean, you're saying that everything benefits for the student athlete, but if they could get cut and they're all just on 1-year deals. They're not like on 3-year deals or 4-year deals. They're on 1-year deals. So that's why I think we have to, saner minds will come and say, listen, this is kind of crazy. We need to model it like the NFL if we want to be truly fair to everybody.
So you mentioned that you like to think all the players are here because they love to play football or love WVU. And I'm sure most of them love to play football to some extent and like something here in Morgantown, something that's being offered. But obviously some are obviously in this era always going to go for some sort of contract dollar amount, NIL money. How do you, or I guess rather, would you rather have on your team someone who's more committed to just being in Morgantown or just playing college football than someone who might have a higher talent level or a higher like potential upside, but is more so only here for what we're offering NIL wise? And how do you balance that?
Who I trend to want to have? Dudes that help us win. Period. Every decision we make is based on, does it help us win? Now, some of that does it help us win is attitude, commitment. You know, those are all part of that. So it's not just talent. You know, people sometimes like, oh, it's just, you know, I think durability, toughness, all that, those are talents too. You know, I think sometimes you better look at just like how fast he can run or how high he can jump or how far he can throw. But, you know, sometimes our guys' functional intelligence, his football IQ, those are all abilities as well. So all that goes into factor. Like for instance, it might be, as Bob mentioned, the guys, you know, 102, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Which guys are those? A lot of them would be, okay, this guy, they're kind of even, but this guy can play on all special teams. You know, he'd be great on the punt team, great on the punt block team, great on the kickoff team or something like that. Or this guy can play both center, guard, and tackle. Or this guy can play both safety and corner. You know, so those guys that create more value for themselves that way create more value for the team as well. So all that's kind of getting evaluated. And I think that gets evaluated anyway, but now we'll probably be more intentional in who we go to the season with based on some of those factors.
Practicing full yet?
Well, he was in a green shirt today, which he was limited. He didn't do any team, but he did individual, and he looked better. I think he's just getting his confidence back with that. So I'd still like to, you know, I think Jaheim's a proven guy from we know what his ability is. He just hasn't got a lot of reps in our system. So we hope over the next few practices he can learn the system. And I'm not worried about him getting tackled or doing anything live. I just want him to learn this stuff. And, you know, when he's 100% healthy, he'll be in.
You mentioned getting to the NFL model and all of that. And, you know, NFL teams even looked at your system years ago. Do you talk to NFL coaches, NFL personnel, NFL GMs, even more so now than maybe even 10 years ago because you're expecting to need to kind of copy what they're doing?
Yeah, I have over the last year talked to friends of mine in the NFL, talked to some GMs, and I talked to some coaches and some NFL GMs after I took this job as well because everything's kind of evolving. And so they've been doing it a long time. But it's not like this, you know, it's just brand new. It's been going on for the last few years. So, you know, it's what's different is now is a different scope from Group of 5 to Power 4, and it's ever changing. You know, I mean, I think eventually we're going to have just one portal window. I mean, like I said, we should have a free agent portal window like the NFL has. Then you have the draft thing, and then you have your mini camps, and then You can have a practice squad. Like I said, there's just makes too much sense not to follow the most successful professional organization in the history of sports. Instead of just all this kind of, what are we? What's the rule next week? When you got to keep making a rule to adjust to another rule, that means something's kind of needs fixed.
How much tougher does it make your job when the scenario you just talked about is constantly happening? The constant evolution of this. You never know what the next rule is going to be.
Yeah, I think a lot of coaches are probably just throwing their hands up and saying whatever. But a lot of guys are just like, okay, how do we adjust to it? What do we got to do to win and have success? And I think that's what we have to do. We have to learn where the rules and where the goalposts are moving. Recruiting is still important, and relationships are, but it's not as important. Before that was a huge part. The relationships will always play a part, but now you have the financial component of it. But you also hope that, they pick a school for more than just, like you said, the financial part. They're picking it because the great atmosphere and the tradition and the opportunity, what have you.
In recruiting, how do you balance the financial part of it with the atmosphere of the school, what the school provides, and your recruiting pitch? And how do you feel like on the financial side of it in particular, you're set up to compete in the Big 12 with what WVU has on?
Yeah, I don't know what everybody else has. I have an idea, obviously, what we have. So I think we're right there. And we have some advantages because, being the sole Power 4 team in the state and no professional teams, NBA, WNBA, NFL, what have you, we get a great amount of attention. Our guys get great coverage throughout the state, as I mentioned. Obviously, it's a great place to play. I'm biased to the education here, right? I got a great education here. So I think if things are close, or even if they're not close, I think we have some advantages over some teams in our league and on our level. But there are, we got to face reality. If a guy's picking just about money, if it's solely about money, then we're probably not recruiting him because he's going to get bought by, somewhere else probably, and he probably won't fit here. I don't mind that money is somewhat of a factor, but if it's the only factor, that's not going to be the guy that we recruit to West Virginia.
New receiver coach, tell us what you found.
Yeah,
out.
Logan Bradley. I've known of him. I didn't know him, but I've known of him since when I was at Ole Miss. He was at Ole Miss before I got there and worked with the recruiting staff. So all the recruiting staff that I knew from there always spoke highly of him. Some coaches on my staff that worked with him before have been talking to me about him for a couple years. And then so I wanted a guy that obviously had coached similar positions at some point, but also very important that somebody that could be a dynamic recruiter for us. And that's what I think Logan is. I think he'll be not a good recruiter. I think he'll be a great recruiter. And he's already here. He's fired up to do that. So he's on board.
Rich, you mentioned recruiting and kind of what you're looking for. Does it make it easier to sort your guys out or harder with all the different challenges?
Well, I think it's harder now because before you just identify a guy, you offer him a scholarship, you build a relationship, you show him your facilities and your environment. It's like, you got to get him in. You could do all that now, and then he's going to get offered a big paycheck somewhere else, and so it's like, geez, so it's more challenging. People say it's driving some of the coaches out. I think I can understand the frustrations. I can understand frustrations of fans sometimes. Because we get frustrated. It's like, we're doing, you've seen it. And it's been some guys here, they do everything right on and off the field. They're good players. They're having great careers. And they shock you and they leave, go somewhere else. And it doesn't make, where's he going? Well, he's going for one reason, money. That's what I don't want our guys to go for. If he's leaving, that's the only reason he's going for, okay, he's going for. I don't want our guys to leave because the culture or the atmosphere or the facilities or something else is a lot better. they're not. I don't think we're going to lose guys that because we have all those things. Again, I'm biased. I'm speaking about our here, but we have all those other things, and we can compete with all those other things against anybody in college football. So, go ahead.
I was going to ask if you could give some thoughts on the running back room, just like anyone who's impressed or shined, how it's coming along.
Yeah, like I said, Janeem, I'm really excited about him. I think he can have a great year, and he's getting healthy. The rest of them brought a couple new guys in, and LJ and Big Ty Edwards. They're kind of different. Ty's a big guy, big physical guy. Hubbard has had a good spring. He's gotten better. I think he's got a chance to help us. And then we still got to look for a little speed there somewhere. We might try to get another guy in the portal. I don't know yet. But the overall, as a group, as a room, I've been pleased with their progress so far. And Larry's going to do a great job. I think I've got one of the best running back coaches in the country.
Outside of quarterbacks, what position group has the biggest adjustments in going to the new systems you all are putting in?
Oh, they all do. I mean, that's all, Mike. You can look at on defense. I mean, offensively, obviously the tempo is different, and so that's sometimes takes a little bit of adjustment. But even on defense, what Zach does is probably a little unconventional for most people, and he does a lot of stuff, and they have to learn a lot of things, and they do a great job teaching it. So it's really every position, and really, because we only have couple guys that have actually started games for West Virginia. I mean, there's a whole roster of dudes that are learning, techniques and fundamentals and that stuff as well as schemes. So it's been a good spring, but it's a lot of work to do still.
We got time for one more question. Mike Kazan.
You're talking about multi-positional players and even like special teams. Can you do any of that stuff in the spring and take time away from installation and familiarity, or do you project this guy could be a linebacker, tight end, this guy could be on the floor?
Well, in the special teams, we're limited in our special teams. We're doing punt and punt block every day and field goal every day and field goal block every day. So we can evaluate guys doing that, but we're going to still try to probably put more competitive situations the best we can installed into our product. Today we did goal line one-on-ones for the first time. And the only reason I did it wasn't so much to teach a scheme, just to see which wideouts and DBs were good with goal line one-on-one stuff, and just to be able to evaluate them. And every player, it's kind of neat, you guys know this with video nowadays, not like the old schools. I mean, our guys can create a cut-up, an individual cut-up for every player with just their highlights, lowlights, in-between lights, whatever you want to call it, for us to watch next week. And so player X is going to have 20-some plays, good, bad, and ugly, that we're all going to watch and evaluate throughout the spring. And we do that. They make that cut up in 5 minutes. So we have it, I can watch it on film, and I tell you right now, but I could always tell you a lot better after I watch it and really watch the film and have a chance to rewind it and all that stuff.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Yep.